When someone you love so dearly breaks your heart, it will take a long time for you to move on and forget the memories you had with the individual. This story is about Colin, an English painter who travels to the town of Hope, Vermont, in the United States after a traumatic experience with his fiancée Vera. Will he find love again? In the opening scene of Hope Springs, a man named Colin, a British artist, is on a flight to a tiny town called Hope in America. He looks disturbed, worried, and depressed. On his way to the small town, he boards a bus, and he does not relate with any of the passengers. He cannot sleep either, but he tries to force himself to sleep anyway. However, he can't get enough rest, because he is still disturbed. Colin arrives in Hope, a quiet town, and visits a nearby store to get some of the materials he needs for drawing. The store is owned by a couple who know he's a stranger because it is a small town and everyone knows each other. They're curious and want to know his purpose for visiting. He reveals he has always wished to visit their town, but they believe he's there to draw the faces of people in town. Colin feels dizzy and seems bothered. It appears he needs to get enough rest. The wife of the store owner describes how he can get the best hotel in town. He gets there and the hotel manager, named Joni, seems fond of him because they get along easily. He's even willing to draw her husband. She gives him the key and describes how to get to his room. He still feels dizzy, and Joni, being a good woman, offers to help. She believes he needs to sleep, and she's willing to reach out to him to remind him if he has a business deal to attend to. He reveals he does not know anyone in Hope, and none of his family and friends is aware of his whereabouts, so there will be no call. She's perplexed and feels he's trying to go sightseeing, so she mentions places he can visit that will give him great memories to take back to England. However, he let her know he's there to forget memories about someone who happens to be his ex-fiancée. He thinks she's a monster. Concerned, Joni believes it's a part of her job to make him feel comfortable. She receives a call from her friend Mandy, but soon notices that Colin is trying to hurt himself by hitting his head on the door repeatedly. She quickly let her friend know she has to attend to a guest from England. Eventually, she assists him to his room and reveals she plans to call Mandy, who's a trainer caregiver, to come over. He tries to decline, but when she insists, he agrees. Joni believes Mandy will be of great help to him. She gives him sleeping pills to help him relax, but the pills don't work. The heartbreak has clearly affected him badly. In the next scene, Colin wakes up to see Mandy trying to make him relax. She is indeed a caregiver. He's surprised, but she advises him to stay calm, and also wants him to think of the most peaceful place he has ever been. He tries doing that, and he thinks of a place he went with Vera, his ex-fiancée. Mandy believes since Vera is the woman he's there to forget, he should think of another place where he did not go with her. But the imagination does not last for too long, because his thought of when he received Vera's wedding invitation card creeps in. He appreciates Mandy's attempt to help, but believes her method will not help his situation. However, as Mandy plans to leave, she's curious, because she believes his situation is more than a breakup. She wants to know why he traveled to Hope, which is quite far from where he usually resides. As it appears, Colin is on his ex's mailing list, so he received her wedding invitation card. The painful thing is that they were engaged before he received the invitation card. She understands how he feels and suggests he needs a bodily voyage instead of an emotional voyage. She wants him to visit beautiful places in the town and offers to take him there. He declines because he plans to meet Mr. Fisher later in the day. She wants him to reconsider because he needs help to get over Vera. Finally, he agrees to go with her the next day. Later that evening, he meets with Mr. Fisher and draws a portrait of him. Mr. Fisher is aware of his circumstances with his ex-fiancée. He encourages him and believes when the pain finally wears off, he will be a better and stronger man. Colin hopes so. Fisher's wife joins them and hopes her husband's portrait will be beautiful. Colin continues with his drawing and reveals to Mr. Fisher that he believes Vera is getting married to a guy she met in her yoga class. He remembers their moments together and cries. Mr. Fisher still encourages him to move on. The next day, Colin prepares to visit the peaceful place Mandy discussed with him earlier. She drives him there and gets herself drunk because she's having a bad day because of work. She believes the people she's helping are being ungrateful. She even offers him alcohol, but he declines. The plan is to help him get over Vera, but unfortunately, they did not get to see the peaceful place because of Mandy's drunkenness. Colin has to drive them back, but he drives them home slowly because he's not accustomed to a right-hand car. She wants him to drive back to his room so she can get a coffee. Mandy steps on the accelerator, and he's scared. They almost get into an accident, but they have fun eventually. Later, when they get to his room at the inn, she sees all his portrait drawings. She likes them all, and also notices the one of Vera, who she believes is beautiful. He reveals his intentions to her. He wants to have an exhibition of portraits of the faces of people in town. He believes it will take his mind off Vera. Mandy thinks he will need her assistance because she's familiar with every face in town. She's intoxicated and takes off her clothes one after the other. She also encourages him to do likewise. However, while they try to get intimate, he sees Vera's drawing and feels uncomfortable. In the next scene, he begins his quest to draw the faces of people. She takes him everywhere, to the park, on a boat, and they even jump on a trampoline. She's really supportive and assists him in every way on his quest. They get even closer, and their relationship becomes stronger. He's making progress and getting happier each day on his quest. Eventually, he decides to let Mandy know he wants to draw her. He does, and as a joke, he draws an ugly portrait of her, making her chase him around. They're gradually developing feelings for each other. Also, they attend yoga class together, and they get more fond of each other. Colin is not good with yoga, but he decides to give it a try because of Mandy, and since he's happy to try new things if it means he'll be able to get over his breakup. In the next scene, he draws old people as they dance, and he dances with Mandy afterward. They eventually kiss and almost take things more intimate, but they remember they are outside. He drives them both back to the inn to make out. Fisher and his wife see them approach the inn, and they're surprised. They decide to do the same. The next day, he meets with the mayor, named Doug. Doug is aware of his exhibition and wishes to know its name. However, Colin did not even bother to name the exhibition, because he knows it will just be for a short while. Colin tries to draw his portrait, but he wants a real painting of his picture, because he wants to feel as important as the person who founded Hope Town. Their conversation is cut short after Doug receives a call. Doug informs Colin that he will be delighted if he can make a painting of him. In the next scene, Vera visits the inn unexpectedly to ask after Colin. However, Mrs. Fisher sees Mandy and Colin from afar, making out, so she decides to cover up for them by not letting her know that he checked into their inn. Unfortunately, one of the workers reveals his room number, and how he did not allow her to clean his room. But Mrs. Fisher does not allow her to go until she sees Mandy leave Colin's room. But why is Vera in Hope Town after breaking his heart? We will find out. Vera knocks at his door, and Colin rushes out of the shower, thinking Mandy's back. He decides to act funny. He opens the door, but he's surprised to see Vera, his ex-fiancée. He becomes speechless, and a lot of questions run through his mind. Vera decides to let herself in, because Colin does not seem willing to do that. Curious, Joni keeps wondering what's happening in Colin's room. Vera reveals how she got to know of his location. One of his friends is aware of his exhibition, and he revealed it to her. She checks through his room and sees all the portraits of different people. She claims she's delighted and proud of him, and she is there to get him back. Surprisingly, Vera claims the wedding invitation card was a prank to make him finally book the wedding, because they have been engaged for such a long time, and she thought it was about time he did something. Colin believes it's not a prank, and he's already falling in love with Mandy. He wants her to leave, but she's determined to go back to England with him. Eventually, she discovers there's another woman, because she sees a hairdryer on his couch. What will Colin do in this dilemma? Will he reconsider and accept her? Later, he meets with Mandy at work, and lets her know Vera is in town and that the breakup was apparently a prank. Mandy feels she's lying, and wonders why she would prank him. She wants to know if he plans to take her back. While he tries to draw one of Mandy's patients, the patient encourages him to forgive before he gets old and start forgetting things. This is a major decision for Colin, and he is at a crossroads. Afterward, he continues with his quest of drawing the faces of people. He visits a bar with Mandy, and as he draws the face of a waitress, Mandy assists him in writing a letter to Vera. In the letter, he reveals that he believes that their breakup was a prank, and is willing to forgive her. Mandy hopes he will not take her back. The waitress he is drawing doesn't know they are dating, and she suggests Colin take Vera back, making Mandy feel uncomfortable and sad. Joni assists them in typing up the letter. Eventually, Colin appreciates Vera for coming to apologize, but lets her know they can't be together anymore. Too much damage has been done for their romance to survive. He wishes her a safe trip back home. On getting the letter, Vera reads it and believes there's another woman. The next scene is in Colin's hotel room. Mandy is disturbed because she does not want to lose him. She is in love with him and feels they will not work out. Later, Mandy works as usual helping old people, and Colin, on the other hand, continues with his quest of drawing people. He tries to draw one of Mandy's friends, but he keeps distracting him as he pries into Colin's affairs. He believes what Vera did is unacceptable. Colin let him know she's out of town, but unknown to him, she's still there. Eventually, Colin can get him to stop prying so he can concentrate. The town is indeed a small one, and everyone is in everybody's business. Mandy takes her patient for a walk along the road when she bumps into Vera and confronts her. Vera believes she's the owner of the hairdryer based on her approach. Meanwhile, Mandy's patient, who does not know how to lie, admits it. Vera decides to manipulate her. She claims Colin's dad is sick and due for surgery, unknown to her, and that he's trying to run away from responsibility. She's there to make him come home with her. The desperate Vera also gives her the underwear she got for Colin, just to make her jealous. She is successful with her plan, because Mandy feels bad. Later that day, Colin visits Mandy, and she gives him the underwear angrily. She believes he has been cheating on her, and he did not let her know about his father's surgery. He is surprised, and she reveals that Vera told her when she bumped into her earlier. He explains how his father's accident happened. While they're conversing, Vera calls and Mandy picks up. She demands to speak with Colin. She wants them to meet, and insists she will not return to England until he comes with her. He does not want Mandy to get jealous, so he pretends to be saying his farewell to her, to make her believe she's leaving the town. Afterward, he's disturbed while Mandy is asleep. He thinks of how to get rid of Vera because he's in love with Mandy. The next day, he meets Vera and they get to discuss everything. She wants to know why he prefers Mandy, especially since she believes Mandy behaves like a teenager, and she finds her job funny because she has to deal with older people. Colin reveals he loves Mandy and everything about her. He wants Vera to leave, but Vera insists she wants him back. She also wants to smoke, but two couples try to stop her from smoking. Frustrated, Colin apologizes on her behalf, and also states that they will not get back together. Vera's heartbroken. Meanwhile, at Mandy's workplace, one of her patients that's also her friend encourages her. She believes Colin is better than her ex, so she wants her to fight for their love. This motivates Mandy, and she decides to do just that. While Colin is in his room, thinking of how to let Mandy know he's in love with her, he drinks and finally comes to a conclusion. Later, they meet to have dinner at a restaurant. Colin reveals his intentions to her. He wants to go back to England, but not alone. He wants to go back with Mandy. She's delighted, especially since the feeling is mutual. Meanwhile, in the next scene, Vera waits for Colin by the Fisher's pool. However, Joni wants her husband to get rid of her because she does not want her friend to be heartbroken. Mr. Fisher reluctantly meets her and informs her that she has to leave. Vera politely agrees, but promises to keep coming until she sees Colin. She's indeed desperate. Later, Colin visits Vera and insists she has to leave for England. However, she declines because she insists they get back together. To make her feel better, he suggests they can be friends. She tries to seduce him, so she strips down to sexy underwear. Unfortunately, her smoking sets off the fire alarm, so they have to rush out of her room. During the fire evacuation, he believes it's time for her to leave before she causes more damage than good. She decides to say goodbye by kissing him, but he stops her, reminding her that they can't be together. The next day, Colin meets Mandy in a church, and she wants to know if he saw Vera. Unknown to him, she's aware he visited her. He tried to deny it, but can't. Mandy reveals she saw them together at Vera's hotel, and how they kissed when Vera was in her sexy underwear. She's heartbroken, and feels he still has feelings for Vera. This made her change her mind about going with him to England. Colin tries to clear up the misunderstanding, but is unsuccessful, as she only wants him to promise to never contact her again. Later, Colin goes to the store to get some material for the portrait of the mayor. He finds out from the couple that owns the store that everyone in town knows about him and Mandy, and why he's in Hope Town. This surprises him greatly. After Colin is through with the painting, he gives the mayor his portrait, and he loves it. Colin believes he will grant his request. He checks through his office and wants the writing that contains the history of Hope Town. What does he want to do with it? We will find out. After he meets with Vera in a restaurant, he gives her the writing, and she's happy because she discovers her genealogy is linked to the town. What even makes her happier is that Doug informs her she will also be the Queen of Hope at the town festival. Colin finally reveals that everything she has been saying is a lie. Two can play at this game. She still wants to go back with him, but he firmly lets her know it's over between them. Vera's finally convinced that their romance is over. In the next scene, Colin prepares to leave for England, and Doug appreciates him for the portrait. Finally, at the Cannonball Festival, Mandy watches from her workplace, and she gets ready to attend the festival. Doug announces the Queen of Hope, and it turns out to be Vera. Vera sees the title as the consolation prize for losing Colin. Meanwhile, back at the hotel where Colin stays, Joni suddenly drives out, surprising her husband. At the festival, Mandy and some of her patients attend, while Joni looks for her as soon as she arrives there. She eventually sees her, and she reveals a letter Colin faxed her. Mandy thought the letter was for her, but Joni reminds her she told him never to get in touch with her again after she was heartbroken by the misunderstanding. Back to the letter. Joni reveals that Colin arranged for his cousin to visit the festival, thinking he would still be there, then forgot to cancel before he left. And he wants Mandy to pick him up at the garden. She tries to decline, but Joni insists, because she's busy making a barbecue at the hotel, so she eventually decides to go. Mandy goes to the garden and curiously waits for Colin's cousin. Surprisingly, Colin shows up instead. He wants them to play along, so he decides to pretend to be his cousin. He had been scared of reaching out to her because of his promise to her. He also shows her a vintage butterfly engagement ring engraved with their names, so he proposes stylishly. Mandy gets emotional and cries as she agrees to be his wife. Much to Mandy's protest, Colin chooses to carry her back to the inn, where he has checked in again, while waving to everyone as they pass. Colin also waves to the couple that owns the store along the road, just to let them know they're back together. Mandy waves to Vera, who feels jealous. Although she warns him of hurting his back, he insists. They eventually get to his hotel, and Mr. Fisher even stops the cars on the road for them, so they can arrive there safely. Joni and her husband discover they're engaged, making them very glad they finally settled their differences. Colin eventually carries her to his room, and they try to make out, but they can't because his back hurts. Happily reunited, they look forward to traveling back to England together, with Colin finding happiness when he least expected it.